I was not born free. None of us are. We are all born into a prison with invisible walls, a fortress of thought built long before we ever learned to wield a sword. This prison does not have bars of iron or chains of steel. It is constructed of ideas, expectations, fears, and desires that were never truly ours. And yet, we live by them. Before you pick up a weapon, before you train your body, you must train your mind. But modern men do the opposite. They become slaves to their emotions, captives to the opinions of others, obedient to the systems that reward weakness and punish clarity. I see it everywhere now, men who act strong, but are ruled by what others think of them. They are warriors only in image, never in presence. To see your own prison, you must first become quiet enough to hear the sound of your thoughts. Most men cannot. Their minds scream day and night with judgment, doubt, comparison. The battle rages inside long before any opponent appears outside. This is the first cut, to see the bars you live behind. The thoughts you never question. The habits you think are personality. The roles you play to be accepted. These are not you. These are chains. And I ask you this, who forged these chains? Was it your parents? The society? Or worse, was it you? When I was still young and ignorant of the way, I too lived by what others expected of me. I tried to win their approval, to gain reputation, to become someone in their eyes. But I learned through pain, solitude, and the silence of battle, that there is nothing to gain in the world of illusion. You do not need their praise. You do not need their permission. You need only one thing, to become the master of your mind. But beware, this is not done through motivation or morning routines. It is done through war. A war you must declare on your inner cowardice. A war against the self that bows to fear. The first battle is simply this, to say, I will not live as a slave. When you say this, not with words, but with presence, you begin to see the cracks in the walls of your mental prison. You see that your fears were not laws. You see that your limits were not truths. You see that your identity can be burned down and rebuilt. And that is where the way begins. Do not decorate your cage with success. Do not polish your chains with achievement. Burn it all down. Freedom is not given. It is taken. Start with your own mind. Men believe they are thinking, but most of them are simply reacting, again and again, to the same emotion dressed in different robes. A thought arises. It grips them. It turns into worry, then anxiety, then paralysis. And yet, they call it logic. They call it planning. They call it intelligence. But it is none of those things. It is fear. Obsessive thinking is the mind's attempt to predict a world it cannot control. It is a child clinging to a storm, thinking that if he studies the thunder long enough, he will stop the lightning. But the lightning does not listen to fear. And the storm does not care about your theories. A warrior does not think to feel safe. He thinks to act. There is a difference. The moment your mind begins to spiral, repeating, revisiting, replaying, you are not in command. You are hiding. The sword does not return to its sheath 10 times before a battle. It waits in stillness. Ready. That is how your mind must be. Still. Ready. Not obsessed. I have met many who read endlessly. They memorize quotes. They gather knowledge like hoarders collect dust. But when faced with uncertainty, they tremble. All their thinking was a disguise. A fortress of intellect to shield a fragile heart. You cannot think your way to courage. You must act your way through fear. Obsessive thinking is an escape. A way to avoid the present moment where action is required. It pretends to be useful. It gives you the illusion of preparation. But it leaves you tired, fragmented, and indecisive. You circle the same thought for days and wonder why nothing changes. Let me be clear, fear does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers in the form of analysis. Sometimes it dresses in the robes of perfectionism. I need more time. I need more clarity. What if this goes wrong? These are not strategies. They are masks. You must expose them. You must realize that the longer you think about something, the more your courage decays. Thinking beyond a certain point does not lead to wisdom. It leads to delay. The sword that hesitates is the sword that breaks. So how do you stop obsessive thought? Not with more thinking. Not with journals and checklists and mental tricks. You stop by acting. You stop by returning to your breath. You stop by breaking the cycle, not negotiating with it. Stand up. Step forward. Do the smallest possible action in the direction of your fear. The mind will scream. Let it. Move anyway. This is how you build mental strength, not by outsmarting fear, but by outrunning it. Every time you interrupt the spiral of thought with motion, with presence, with directness, you reclaim your power. You remind the mind, I am the master. You are the tool. And in that moment, the fog begins to clear. The fear loses its grip. And you move, not in panic, not in haste, but with quiet resolve. That is the way of the warrior. There is a danger far greater than any blade. It is the belief that every thought you have must be true. Most men walk through life not with swords at their side, but with lies in their heads. Lies whispered to them by an untrained mind. And they believe them all. They think, I am not good enough, and take it as truth. They think, it's too late for me, and accept it as law. They think, I will fail, and carve it into stone. But thoughts are not truths. They are weather. They pass. They change. They lie. When I first began my training, I believed every story my mind told me. You're not strong enough. They will defeat you. You are wasting your time. These were not the words of a master. They were the cries of fear disguised as logic. But because they came from my own mind, I assumed they must be correct. That assumption is the first enemy. A warrior does not believe everything he hears, even from himself. Especially from himself. He learns to separate signal from noise, instinct from fear, clarity from conditioning. The modern world tells you that self-doubt is humility. That fear is caution. That hesitation is intelligence. No, these are dressed-up excuses. The truth is much simpler. If your thoughts make you smaller, they are not truth, they are traps. So how do you know what is real? You test it. In combat, if I believe a man is weaker than he looks, I do not write it in a scroll. I test him. In the same way, you must test your beliefs. I can't do this, prove it. No one respects me, ask them. I'm not ready. Then prepare and see. Your mind is a forge. Every day it produces tools or chains. Your task is to learn the difference. To do that, you must watch your thoughts. Not obey them. Watch them, as a hawk watches the field. Silent. Detached. If a thought appears and demands obedience, you ask, who sent you? Was it fear? Was it pain? Was it your past? Because if you do not question your thoughts, your past will write your future. This is the practice of inner discernment. Not just knowing what you think, but knowing why, and then choosing what to believe. That is power. You must stop saying, this is how I am. No, it is how you were taught to think. But you are not thought. You are awareness. You are the one who sees. From that place, you can cut away what is false. You can burn down what was built in fear. And you can begin to build again, not with belief, but with presence. Thought is not the enemy, but unquestioned thought is. Every warrior has voices in his head. The difference is, he knows which ones to follow, and which ones to silence. Comfort is the new battlefield, and most have already surrendered. In the age of warriors, pain was the teacher, and discomfort was the path. Today, comfort is worshipped like a god, soft beds, easy opinions, quick rewards. But what is comfort, truly? It is the slow erosion of your strength disguised as pleasure. You sit still because it's easy. You delay because it feels safer. You scroll because thinking hurts. And every time you choose comfort over challenge, a part of you dies quietly. When I lived in the mountains, my bed was the earth. My shelter was the sky. The cold taught me how to endure. The hunger taught me how to plan. The silence taught me how to think. These were not hardships, they were teachers. But in modern life, those same forces are avoided at all costs. You are told to chase ease, avoid pain, and eliminate all friction. What happens to a blade that is never used? It rusts. Your mind is no different. A man who is never cold, never hungry, never bored, never challenged, this man has no edge. He is a dulled weapon, useless in war. Comfort is not the enemy, but dependence on it is. Look around. See how quickly people panic when the Wi-Fi is slow, when the room is too quiet, when plans change unexpectedly. These are not warriors. These are victims of a soft life. Do you think discipline grows in comfort? Do you think clarity is born from excess? No. The muscle grows under strain. The mind sharpens in stillness. The spirit awakens through fire. Every time you seek comfort to escape discomfort, you train your nervous system to be fragile. You tell your soul, I cannot handle pressure. And your soul listens. This is why you must seek voluntary discomfort. Wake up early. Train while tired. Say no when it's easier to say yes. Walk in silence. Fast. Face boredom. These are not punishments, they are purification. You must become immune to trivial discomforts, so that you are ready for the real ones. When the day comes, and it always comes, when everything falls apart, when you are betrayed, when you lose, when life pierces your armor, you will not beg for rescue. You will stand, forged by discomfort, unmoved. A man who fears discomfort is already defeated. Before the sword is drawn, before the words are spoken, let others chase ease. You chase the edge. The modern man believes he is in control. He schedules every hour, plans every step, and surrounds himself with devices that feed him certainty. He craves prediction, clarity, and safety. And when the world fails to obey his plans, as it always does, he collapses. This is not strength. This is addiction. I have seen men tremble not in the face of death, but in the face of the unknown. They fear uncertainty more than pain. They would rather live small, predictable lives than risk the chaos of freedom. Control is a lie. Prediction is an illusion. The warrior knows this. In battle, nothing goes as planned. The opponent does not move as expected. The weather shifts. Your sword slips. Your body fails. What then? Do you freeze? Do you panic? Or do you adapt? A true warrior does not need the world to bend to his expectations. He bends with the world. The addiction to control is born from fear. The fear that without control, you are nothing. That chaos will destroy you. But chaos is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. It shows you who you are when plans dissolve, when routines break, when your script catches fire. I lived many days not knowing where I would sleep, what I would eat, or who I would face. And in those days, I found myself. Because when everything is uncertain, you stop pretending. You become what is real. You must learn to walk into the fog without hesitation. You must train your nervous system to remain calm in disorder. This does not mean you never plan. It means your plans do not own you. Let go of the need to control everything. Let go of the obsession with predicting outcomes. Instead, train for adaptability. Train to remain still while others panic. Train to move with precision when others freeze. Control is temporary. Presence is permanent. The river flows not because it forces the rocks to move, but because it moves around them. Be like water, not rigid, not desperate to control, but always moving forward. The enemy of mastery is the need to predict. The ally of mastery is the ability to respond. Do not ask, what will happen? Ask, what will I do when it does? The warrior does not demand certainty. He prepares for chaos. Before I ever drew my blade, I studied. Not the enemy, but myself. Not the battlefield, but my impulses. Because in combat, the first to react is often the first to die. The modern world teaches you the opposite. It rewards speed, reaction, instant opinions, emotional responses. Social media applauds outrage. News profits from panic. You are told that if you don't respond, you are weak. But I tell you, if you cannot pause, you are a slave. The path of Musashi is not about fighting. It is about not reacting. Reaction is the enemy of clarity. When you react, you become a puppet. Pulled by anger, fear, jealousy, pride. You hand over your power to external forces. But when you observe, you remain the master. Still, aware, untouched. When you are insulted, observe. When you are praised, observe. When the world burns, observe. Not because you are passive, but because you are powerful. Observation is not weakness. It is preparation. It is how the warrior reads the enemy before they strike. It is how you learn to see what others miss. In my life, I walked through villages where people hated me. I stood before men who wanted to kill me. I faced betrayal, hunger, and solitude. But I did not react. I observed. I watched their eyes, their hands, their fear. And then I chose. Choice is the fruit of observation. Reaction is the poison of ego. A man who reacts is ruled by everything. A man who observes is ruled by nothing. You must train your nervous system not to flinch. You must sit with your discomfort without escaping. You must delay your judgment until the dust settles. The sword drawn too quickly wounds its master. So how do you observe? First, breathe. Slow. Deep. Let the wave of emotion rise without riding it. Second, notice. What are you feeling? Why? Is it real or is it memory? Third, wait. Let the emotion pass before you speak, before you act, before you move. This is the discipline of stillness. Not silence, but controlled presence. Most people speak to be heard. The warrior speaks to move. Most people act to escape. The warrior acts to finish. Do not let the world provoke you. Let it reveal you. When you can observe without reacting, you see everything. You anticipate. You flow. You strike only when necessary. And when you do not miss. Observation is the shield of the wise. Reaction is the chain of the untrained. You choose which one you wear. A warrior does not walk into battle carrying unnecessary weight. He sharpens his blade, not his collection of weapons. He clears his mind, not fills it with noise. Why? Because in combat, clarity is life. And confusion is death. Yet the modern man prides himself on how busy his mind is. How much he thinks. How many tasks he juggles. He calls it productivity. I call it blindness. Mental clutter is the unseen weight that slows your strike, delays your decisions, and clouds your instincts. You do not need more information. You need less distraction. You do not need more opinions. You need silence. When I trained alone in the mountains, I had no books, no teachers, no noise. Just the wind, the cold, and the sound of my breath. That was where my thoughts sharpened. That was where I learned to separate the necessary from the noise. Most of what fills your mind is noise. The to-do lists, the comparisons, the endless content you consume, the gossip, the imaginary arguments, the what-ifs, the regrets. These are not thoughts. They are weeds choking the root of your discipline. A samurai clears his path before he moves. You must do the same with your mind. So how do you declutter mentally? First, stop consuming what you do not need. Every article, every post, every video enters your mental dojo. If it doesn't serve your growth, it slows your blade. Second, practice mental fasting. Just as the body is strengthened through hunger, the mind is sharpened through silence. Spend time with no input. No phone. No music. No words. Just breath and presence. Third, write. Not to perform, not to impress, but to expose. Put your thoughts on paper and see which ones deserve to live. Most do not. The enemy is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers in the form of, I need to keep thinking. Sometimes it smiles as, I just want to be informed. But too much input leads to paralysis. And the paralyzed man dies first. Your mind is a blade. If you let everyone touch it, it dulls. If you never clean it, it rusts. You must protect it. You must train it. You must empty it. The samurai meditates not to feel calm, but to feel nothing. Nothingness is the canvas on which clarity is painted. Let others chase stimulation. Let them drown in data. You return to stillness. Because the man who can sit in silence, focused and clear, is more dangerous than 1,000 men shouting. Cut the noise. Sharpen the silence. In a world addicted to noise, silence is rebellion. And rebellion is power. Most men cannot stand silence, not because it is empty, but because it is full. In silence, you hear your truth. In silence, your fears speak. Your regrets rise. Your ego trembles. So they drown it out. With music, with talk, with endless stimulation. But the warrior? He walks straight into silence. When I trained alone, the silence was not peaceful. It was brutal. It stripped away my illusions. It showed me my weakness, not in battle, but in my own mind. It revealed the lies I had accepted, the fears I had buried, the truths I had avoided. And then it gave me strength. Silence is not absence. It is presence intensified. A man who has not sat in silence does not know who he is. He only knows who the world told him to be. But in silence, the masks fall. The performances end. And what is left is you. This is why so many fear it. Because when the noise fades, you face the question, am I enough without it? A master uses silence not to escape, but to sharpen. He speaks less so his words carry more. He moves slower so his actions strike deeper. In silence, he prepares. He studies. He watches. And when the time comes, he acts with precision. Modern men talk too much, too quickly, too often. They interrupt. They overshare. They argue not to learn, but to dominate. This is not strength. This is insecurity in disguise. Silence, when chosen, is a weapon. It creates space between thought and action. It allows clarity to rise above emotion. It protects your energy from unnecessary battles. You must cultivate silence daily. Wake up before the noise. Walk without distraction. Eat without a screen. Sit with your breath. Listen not just to sounds, but to what is beneath them. The less you speak, the more you hear. The less you react, the more you see. The less you chase, the more you receive. Do not mistake silence for passivity. The calm surface hides the depth of the ocean. The storm within the still mind is the most powerful force. There is a silence that comes before the strike. That is not hesitation. It is control. Be that silence. Let the world talk. You wait. Watch. And when the moment comes, move like thunder out of stillness. That is mastery. You would not go into battle with a dull sword. You would not trust your life to a weapon you have never tested. And yet, men walk into the battle of life with untrained minds, fragile, scattered, and dull. They wonder why they fall. Your mind is your first weapon. Before fists, before words, before any blade. And like any weapon, it must be sharpened. The mistake is believing the mind sharpens itself. That with age comes wisdom. No, age only brings repetition. It is training that brings strength. So how do you train the mind? You train it like a blade. With friction, with heat, with discipline. You put it through pressure. You test it. You cut away the unnecessary. Discomfort is the whetstone. Silence is the forge. Action is the strike. When I trained, I did not just swing my sword. I observed my thoughts while I moved. I noticed which emotions disturbed my precision. I practiced calm in chaos. This is what made me dangerous, not just the blade in my hand, but the stillness behind my eyes. A sharp mind is focused. It does not chase. It does not rush. It does not react. It moves with intent, with clarity, with presence. Most men have minds like shattered glass, fragmented, sharp, and useless. Why? Because they never trained it. They let the world train it for them. Through television, through opinion, through fear, through comfort. To reclaim your mind, you must first accept that it is your responsibility. No one else can sharpen it for you. Start with discipline. Wake at the same hour. Move your body. Limit your inputs. Read what challenges you. Sit in silence. Speak with purpose. These are not rituals. These are reps. Second, put your mind under pressure. Choose the harder path. Delay gratification. Face your fears deliberately. This is how you build resilience, not by avoiding storms, but by walking through them with steady breath. Third, reflect. After every failure, ask, what was I thinking? After every victory, ask, was I present? Self-awareness is the mirror that reveals the edge of your blade. And finally, cut. Cut distractions. Cut toxic influences. Cut weak habits. Cut excuses. Every cut you make sharpens the weapon you carry inside. The sharper your mind, the fewer battles you fight, because your presence alone becomes a force. Train until your thoughts obey you. Until focus is your default. Until silence is your strength. A man with a sharp mind does not fear war. He ends it before it begins. Every man carries a rope that binds him to who he was, to what he fears, to the life he no longer wants but cannot release. That rope is not made of silk or steel. It is made of memory, of doubt, of comfort, of identity, and most will die still holding it. You say you want to change. You say you want power, peace, mastery, but you will not let go. You want transformation without sacrifice. You want evolution without loss. You want to carry the new while dragging the old. That is not the way. That is delusion. At some point, you must decide, cut the rope or stay chained. This rope, this attachment to your past, your excuses, your story, it is what holds you in place. It is what whispers, maybe later. It is what says, you're not ready. It is what convinces you to sleep in, to stay quiet, to shrink. But the sword is not polite. It does not ask permission. It cuts. The way requires the same. A ruthless decision. A final strike. Not against the world, but against your own dependency. I remember the moment I let go. Not of a weapon, not of an enemy, but of a belief that I needed the world's approval to matter. That I had to be liked to be powerful. That I had to belong. When I cut that rope, I became free. Not free from the world. Free from myself. And in that freedom, I became dangerous. You will not become who you must be by improving who you are. You will become it by burning who you were. Yes, it will be lonely. Yes, it will be uncertain. Yes, it will hurt. But it will be real. And real is worth everything. So I ask you now, what rope do you still carry? What belief keeps you bound? What lie do you still whisper to yourself in the dark? Cut it. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when it's convenient. Now. Because the longer you hold the rope, the deeper it sinks into your skin. Until it becomes part of you. Until you no longer know where the rope ends and you begin. Cut it. With clarity. With finality. With fire. And when the rope falls, do not look back. The man you were has no place where you are going. Let him go. Become what the rope was afraid of.